Well, there are some imposters in the ballpark, but we've got the real deal. As we go to the bottom of the second inning, Mets lead 2-0, and Steve's standing by with David Wright. Steve.
Actually, Steve is sitting by with David Wright. They made him stand that last half inning, so we're going to let you sit here on the TV broadcast. But David, obviously it's great to see you. Again, you look great. How's it been? What's it been like here, life without playing and rehabbing?
Weird, strange. There's a lot of things I miss, coming and seeing the guys, the camaraderie, the preparation, competing, the shenanigans. And there's some things I don't miss, the physical part of it, how I felt after games, waking up the next morning. But I certainly miss this, being back at the ballpark and just the sights, the sounds, the smells. I know it hasn't been that long, but it brings back some great memories, and excited to be back at the ballpark.
You mentioned you don't miss the physical aspect of it. How different, as Hosmer drills this one. That's a home run. McNeil from out here looked like he might have been able to get it just over the glove. So Mets lead cut down to 1. David, not such a good luck charm here.
You're bad luck. I was great in the radio booth.
Okay, all right, so it's us. But I was saying, you are a guy that you talk so much about the physical side. Just how different is life physically right now for you on a daily basis? Are you still fighting through this stuff, or are you refreshed in that manner?
It's just so much more controlled. I still go through a lot of my back stuff, my neck stuff, but I don't have to do all the odd things that you have to do on a baseball field, whether it's swinging and missing, which I was good at, or diving, or check swing, or some of these things that really would kill my back. So it's more controlled, and I know what to expect on a daily basis.
So we know you spend a lot of time out west, but you're going to be back on the East Coast for the PGA Championship next week. Just take us through exactly what you're doing to be a part of that and an ambassador for that.
Well, it's really cool because they reached out. I've gotten into golf, not so much playing it, but just learning about it and trying to play when my back allows. But I needed something to compete. I needed that competitive fire, those juices for something, and I think golf's been that for me. They reached out and they said, we'd love for you to be the ambassador for the tournament at Bethpage. I was obviously honored, but digging deeper, what they do, the charitable endeavors that they do earlier in the week before the tournament, working with children, veterans, I'm really excited to be a part of that, and I'm really excited to attend my first major in person.
You talk about needing to compete, and that's something that it's obviously such a big part of being a professional athlete. It's why you guys get to this level. How quickly did you realize that was something you were going to have to find an outlet for the remainder of your life, really, when you were done doing this?
I think very early on. I was sitting at home, and it's, you want to prepare for something. You want to work at something. You want to hone your craft at something that interests you. And I played a little golf, during spring training earlier in my career, and had fun with it, and then kind of stopped as I got a little older. But getting back into it's really been a lot of fun for me. And again, it's something for me to work at and have goals and setting goals and trying to accomplish those.
David, I don't know about you, but every time that I walk into this ballpark, I think back to 2015, because it was the first time that we had a chance to talk with you after that diagnosis of spinal stenosis. And you spent about 25 minutes with us at your locker, said all the right things, but we weren't sure how much you actually believed what you were saying. In that moment, how much fear was there that you might actually not get to play baseball again?
That was the first question that I remember asking the doctors when I was diagnosed was, can I play? And, they said the right things, and I kind of got the same read that you guys were getting at me. And I wanted to believe it. I'm not sure if I fully committed to believing it. But it was, I knew early on from that it was going to be an uphill climb. Just, physically how unpredictable it was, kind of day in, day out. For me, I can look back and say, I did everything I possibly could, and know that, it just wasn't meant to be as far as making it back to becoming the type of player that I wanted to be and being able to be a healthy player.
But you did make it back for some incredible moments, that 2015 World Series, the home run at Citi Field, and obviously your last game a season ago was such a special day. Have you gone back and watched that broadcast at all since that time?
It's funny because Olivia, who turns 3 this summer, always wants to watch her part throwing the first pitch, and she gets the biggest kick out of and we must have watched it 100 times. We have it on our phones, and then there was a rain delay, and we were over our in-laws, and during the rain delay they played part of it, and she got an absolute thrill when she looked up at the TV and saw herself on TV, and started laughing and screaming, and it was pretty fun. So yes, we've watched bits and pieces, not 100% full through, because a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old don't really have the attention span for that quite now. But pretty cool to have those types of memories, because that'll last with me and hopefully my kids for the rest of their life.
Was that the most special part for you, that moment with Olivia? You talked about wanting to get back so that they could see you play. Is that the one that stands out to you from that night?
Yeah, I would say, certainly from a selfish standpoint but also just the love from the fans, the love from the organization. They did right by me, when they didn't have to do that. I probably didn't, deserve the amount of support and love that I received that night, and it was overwhelming. To see the fans lined up at the players' entrance when I got there at noon or 1 o'clock, and the fans lined up at the players' entrance at midnight when I finally left, or whatever time it was. It really was overwhelming, and it made me look back at my career and be very thankful that I got a chance to do it in a Met uniform in this great city, and in front of these fans. I mean, it's pretty special.
David, as you do look back on your career, you're afforded so many great opportunities as a prominent athlete in New York, met so many great players on the field and in other sports, I would imagine, as well. What are the 1 or 2 relationships that you really do cherish still to this day and plan on keeping up with for the remainder of your life?
Well, I mean, I have teammates that some, ex-teammates, guys in that dugout right now that are some of, my best friends. Like earlier today, I was here earlier fulfilling my duties as special advisor, and saw Rod Barajas and Damian Easley in the other dugout and caught up with them for a while. I mean, it's just, it seems like everywhere you go in the game of baseball, you see former teammates, and you keep in touch with these guys, and they become lifelong friends. And that's certainly been the case with me, where some of my closest friends are relationships that I've formed in the clubhouse, when we go play baseball day in, day out.
Anybody outside of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I have other friends. What are you saying? I can't make friends outside of baseball?
I question it. I question it at times, to be honest with you.
I'm a very, my friend list is full, so thank you for asking. Beyond
Anthony DeComo, who's writing a book for you now?
Yeah, I know. I probably could have done better. No, Anthony's great. He approached me and said he was interested in doing a book, and I was obviously floored that somebody wants to write a book or somebody wants to read a book about me, which I guess that's a little too early to be saying, but maybe nobody does. But it's been an exciting project so far. We're at the very beginning, and he's really putting in a lot of work and a lot of hours, and hopefully it turns out good. Hopefully there's some interest in it, and I've certainly been excited to be a part of it.
David, can you stick around, assuming Nimmo makes this catch? Can you stick around for 1 or 2 more questions?
Let's do it.
Wow, that's an emphatic yes. We're coming back with the special advisor, the captain, David Wright, after this break. Top of the third, back here in San Diego. David Wright just couldn't get enough of being on SNY, so he agreed to stay with us for a couple more minutes.
You were begging me before last inning. You were begging me to stay for a couple more, so okay.
I told you not to say that to everybody on camera. You mentioned you're a special advisor now to Jeff Wilpon, Brody Van Wagenen. You played such an active role, they revealed to us, in the Jacob deGrom extension talks. Can you just take us through exactly what your input was on kind of structuring that deal and helping bring it across the finish line?
Let me tell you something. They're being very kind. They deserve a lot of credit. I was in the room towards the end for some of that stuff, and the amount of time that they put in, Brody and Jeff, of these different offers and these different scenarios and this and that was really cool to be a part of. And they kindly asked for my input on a couple things, which I helped out as much as I could, but they got it done. And for Jake to a contract extension is always a compromise, so I feel like both sides felt like they won, and that's always a good thing. And those guys did a really nice job of getting it done, and I'm glad. Jake's one of my really good friends, and he's one of the best in the game, and I'm glad he's going to be a Met for a long time.
How do you view your role right now? What type of input do you like to give and think you can bring to the table, especially knowing these guys as intimately as you do know them?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think that, being in Florida towards the end of spring training, sitting in on some of the building the roster meetings, seeing what the mindset is, of a general manager, of a front office, or what goes into, guys making the team based on, performance and this, and it's really, really neat. And, what I think is great is Brody, and Jeff wanting a player's perspective on some things, bouncing ideas off of a guy that I don't know much about, front office work, but I do know the difference in some of the very good teams that I played on and kind of the chemistry that we had in that clubhouse. And I think sometimes that often gets overlooked. Is it's easy to go out there and try to get the best players, and obviously that's important. But what goes on behind the scenes in the clubhouse and how they gel and how they kind of get on that same side of the rope and pull together to accomplish that goal, I think is important as well. And I think that's that type of perspective that I can bring to the table.
Is that what you aspire to be in this role, bringing in an age where it's so much about analytics and what the numbers say, bringing that human element and how important it can be?
Well, yeah, this is my opinion, is that analytics are great, and I use them towards the end of my career. But also there's a human element to it, and I think both Brody and Jeff get that, and I think that's where former players can be valuable in saying that, okay, yes, this specific player is a plus on the field performance-wise, but he's a negative in the clubhouse, so therefore, maybe take a little bit of the less talented guy, but the guy that's really going to bring it every day in the clubhouse and be that type of leader where can rally the troops and go out there and play winning baseball. And over a course of 162 games, those things tend to show pretty severely when you have winning players compared to when you have guys that are a little more selfish and don't go out there and play to win baseball games.
Speaking of which, David, some of these young guys, Jeff McNeil, Pete Alonso, they seem to be those types of players. Just watching them, watching what Pete Alonso did last night after a rough night the night before, what are your early thoughts on those two guys specifically?
Well, I was driving in from over there at some point this morning, and I think I picked up Pete Alonso's ball from last night. That thing was an absolute moonshot. But it's been really cool. Both those guys, I rehabbed with, over the last couple of years and got to know them on a personal level. And, I'm really glad to see both of them succeed because you want to see homegrown guys, make it to this level and kind of be part of that core. And it certainly seems like both those guys are heading that direction.
David, since I know you feel like you probably didn't get enough time with us, I'm going to come and play some golf with you next week, so no need to fear, but we do have to cut this off. Unfortunately, there's a baseball game going on.
Tell Todd Zill I said hello. He's doing a great job, and best wishes to Ronnie, for sure.
Thank you so much, David. So great to see you, and we'll see you soon. Guys, back to you.